Hey there, welcome back folks. Today we're going to do another lab. This time it's going to be wipers and light service, where we're going to go through changing wiper blades and checking and changing light bulbs. And we're going to do several different light bulbs here. So let's get at it. We'll start out with the wipers first.
Alright, let's start out with our vehicle ID block on our lab sheet. And let's get this squared away right away. We are working on a 1998 Ford Taurus today. That is black in color. And it is the shop car. License plate, not applicable. VIN, we got one of those. We can copy one of those down. Let me bring you over there. Alright, so if we take a look, we can see our VIN plate right here. If we can focus on that, that's going to be IFAFP. Okay, so I got that jotted down. Mileage has 140 miles on it, and the color is black. Take a look, drivetrain, we've covered this in previous videos, so we're going to just remember that and go back to front wheel drive. It is an automatic transmission. We do have front and rear door times 2 sides, so that makes this a sedan. And now it's time to go ahead and get started on our wipers. First thing that we want to do is take a look at the wipers and see what we're going to need to do to replace them, and we're also going to take a length measurement and mark off any tools that we may have used to get the wipers off. These are the kind that, if we take a look, these are the ones that have the hook style on the end of them. I'll show you this closer once we get it off. Usually on these, see if I can point it out to you. Hard with the lighting. There's a little tab right here. You just pinch that little tab and you pull down or back on the wiper and it'll slide right off. Let me set you up so I can use both hands and we'll get this one off and measured. Alright, so we'll start by measuring it. I'm just going to take a tape measure. I'm going to just gently lift this up, and I'm going to measure from one end of the bracket to the other and round it to the nearest inches here. And this one measures out at 24 inches. So I'll take my lab sheet, and this is my driver's side wiper, so I'm going to write down 24 inches. Okay? And then now, let's see if we can get it off. So for these, I'm going to rotate this up this way to expose that little tab that I pointed out earlier. I'm just take my finger and push it in towards the bar, and I'm going to pull down on the wiper until it comes free like this, and then it's just a matter of slipping it up over the hoop. Okay? Now notice that I've kept my left hand here on this wiper arm. Before I set this down, I usually don't like to leave these sitting in the up position. I guess I'm kind of worried that sometimes they might spring back down towards the windshield, so I like to put a towel down and then rest it on the towel gently. That way I know that it's not going to get bumped and come smacking down on the windshield, cracking the windshield. And with the towel there, if for some reason the wipers were to get activated, the end of the arm's not going to be going up and down scratching the window. Okay? So if we take a closer look at this is the tab I was talking about earlier. This one's a nice large tab, so it's easy to do with the tip of your finger. Sometimes you get little tabs where you might need like a small screwdriver, like a pocket-sized screwdriver type thing, just to go in there and push the tab so that you can release it. And so how this works is, this is going to slide right up underneath the hook, and then there's a little locking tab, a detent, that seats itself into the hole on the other side of the hook over there. And so to put it back on now, is reverse removal here. So I'm going to pick this up. We'll slide. The clip is going to go underneath the hook. The hook's going to go through the frame, and then that plastic clip goes right up into the hook. And we just push it till it clicks. Set that back down, and that's how we do our wipers for the lab. We didn't need any tools, so we don't need to check anything off there. Let's move on to some headlights. Alright, so our goal here is to access the headlamp bulb so we can identify the numbers on it, count the number of filaments. On this particular vehicle, we've got a few bolts that we got to take out in order to get to the headlight. Other vehicles, you can reach around back here and access them without removing the headlight assemblies. And other vehicles, you might have to pull off a whole front bumper cover in order to unbolt the headlight assemblies or get to them. And still other vehicles, you might have to go through an access panel in the wheel well fender liners. So they're all a little bit different, and that's where knowing how to access and use our service data is going to come in. We got to know which ones to remove too. We're going to take out these 10mm bolt heads. These two screw heads here that have the Torx drives in them, those are for aiming and adjustment. We want to leave those ones alone. That one is a little tight. By the way, I'm using the electric tools to kind of speed up the process and shorten the video. But in lab, you guys will be expected to be practicing with the hand tools. And I might use the electric tools to take it apart and maybe run the bolts in, but I'll finish tightening everything down with a regular ratchet. So once I've got my 3 short bolts out, and this is actually a bolt that holds it in farther down, all I got to do for this one is just loosen it. So once I got those loose, I should be able to just pretty much lift out my headlight assembly and then unclip this connector right here. You might be able to tell that the plastic clip that holds it onto the headlamp bulb has been broken off. That's because this lab has been done dozens of times to this vehicle, and whoever did it last didn't even have the headlamp installed properly. So that just kind of came right out. So I will take this and set it off to the side. And then whenever we unplug these light bulbs, we need to be careful that we don't touch the glass on these halogen bulbs. And then you always want to make sure that you're pulling on the plastic or connector body. Don't pull on the wires. All right, so here's our halogen bulb. And if we can get it so that we don't have a glare, we can then count our filaments. Take a look right there. We got, see those like little coils, the things that look like little, tiny little springs? Those are our filaments, and we can see that there's 2 of them. So this is a dual filament bulb, and the bulb number, come on, is an HB5 or a 9007. Okay. If you do happen to accidentally touch the glass, which might happen, just make sure to take a very clean, dry shop towel and wipe it off really good before you go to reinstall it. Okay. If you don't and you leave a fingerprint on that bulb, as soon as you power it up, it's likely to blow. Alright, so putting it back in, looks like we're actually missing a piece of this headlamp here. There's actually supposed to be a collar, spider web. There's supposed to be a collar that locks this bulb into here. But going to put it back in, you'll see that there's notches around the base of the light. We got to make sure we line up those notches to the notches in the hole. And then we got to push it so it's fully seated. Okay, so I shouldn't be able to see any of that white O-ring sticking out. And then it's a matter of lining things back up. Plug in our connector here. We would want to make sure that this gets fully seated and put back into the hole. I'm going to just set that down there for a second, and I'm going to take out my clipboard. I'm going to write down our findings. Let's see here. So that was a 9007, and there was 2 filaments to that one. Okay. Next one we're going to do is a front parking light, and in order to do that, that's this one right here. Let me adjust you guys a little bit. In order to reach this one, I would either need to take off the front bumper cover or unbolt it enough I can peel it back. However, if I take out that front headlight again, I'll be able to reach in through the side and get that one. So let me remove this once again. We'll set this off to the side. And I'll bring you guys down for a closer look. Alright, so you can see the brown connector back here. This is the connector for the front parking light here. And I'm going to want to try to disengage this connector first. These light sockets come out with a quarter turn. So maybe we'll even try that first. We'll give it a quarter turn. See if we can wiggle it out here. Okay. Got just enough room to maneuver this guy around. Now this bulb isn't a halogen bulb that's going to run as hot as the headlamp bulbs, so we don't have to be as concerned about touching them. And then these ones are wedge or blade style. So it's kind of push in, pull out here. And if we take a look here, this one has 2 filaments, and this is a 3457. So we'll stick that back in. Pops in like that. You can see we've got some tabs here again that need to get aligned when we go to put it in. We need to align those, and then it's a quarter turn to lock it into position. Switch hands, try to get there you go, clicked into place. Okay, so that's how we do the front marker bulbs. Let's go ahead and write down what we found. So now here for a front micro bulb, it was a 3457, and that one also had 2 filaments. Front marker all put back together. We can go ahead now and reinstall the front headlight assembly here, just like we were showing last time. And make sure we come in, we make sure that fully seats and clips. This one, obviously the tabs are broken, so it's not gonna, but we need to make sure that we get things put back into the right way. It should seat pretty easy, and we always want to start our bolts by hand. Make sure all those threads line up, and then these, all they do is they simply hold the headlight down, so not a lot of torque is required to properly secure them, so we got to be careful about how much we apply. I'm just going to take the electric ratchet and kind of run the slack out of them a little bit, and then I will hand tighten them. Paying attention to the sound that the motor makes. You can hear it when it starts to labor. It's time to let up. Especially on the plastic pieces like this. Okay, because they'll split and break easy, and once those are busted off, it's really hard to hold your headlight assembly in. And that gets to be an expensive repair on some of these vehicles where these headlight assemblies can be rather expensive. So now I'm going to go through and I'm just going to snug these up. I'll come back for this one here. Okay, so we got that. Let me show you the other side real quick and a result of what happens when we over tighten those bolts. Okay, this is what happens when we go a little too rough or a little too tight on the bolts. It splits the plastic, and then somebody comes by and they do this lab again and they over tighten it again, and it splits it a little bit more and a little bit more, and pretty soon this tab will no longer be able to help hold the headlight into the vehicle. Now, being a shop vehicle and having a few other ones here, it'll probably be okay, but this is definitely not good for customer relations. So we want to, this is why we hand tighten things and we snug them up, and then we use torque wrenches when we're not sure of how tight we're making them, and we can look up torque specs for these too. All right, let's move on to the next one. We're going to go do some light assemblies in the back now. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and go after a brake lamp or a tail light bulb. And so on this car, the tail light and brake light are right next to each other. This one here is the brake and this one's the tail light. And in order to get to it, we're going to need to start to remove some interior trim in order to get to the screws that hold the taillight assembly in place. So let's take a moment and let's take a look at some of the tools that we might use to do that. Depending on our vehicle and how things are in there, we might need some plastic wedges or trim tools. And we have these in various styles and shape. Here are just a couple of the popular ones that I like, that I pulled out just in case I need them. We have push clip tools for pulling off push clips. Every once in a while we find that the small flathead screwdriver, aka mini pocket pry bar, works wonders on some plastic clips. We have plastic clip pliers, and then sometimes we encounter scrivets where they have a little Phillips head screw that needs to be backed out and then the clip can come out. So those are some of the tools that we might need in order to get to it, and those will change depending on our situation, but that's some examples of what we might use or have. So let me bring you over and set you up so you can kind of see some of the trim come off here. You can see I'm going to have to pull this plastic panel so that I can come in and pull the inner carpet behind the taillight out. And so let me get those plastic clips out quick. And for these ones, they have a little square head that you need to pull up, and then they pop out. And now these ones, being a shop car, they've been in and out a lot, so I expect these the ones to come out really easy because they're a little bit beat up. But if you take a look, there's a little plastic head, and if I grab with the pliers, they scoop right up, and then the whole clip comes out. Okay, and so that's how these work. And then so what happens is when you push this down, it spreads out these legs, but you can see this one's already missing 2 of the 4 that it would have had. Okay, but that's how this one works. This is, where the small screwdriver kind of comes in, but these pliers make them really quick and easy too. So we'll take the other ones out here. This one is already loose, as you can probably tell. And we got another one right here that's actually missing its thing. And I got another one right here. Okay. And once we get all those out, if we're lucky, the trim might just lift right out. And this one's got a few clips on the underside, like that right there. We just had to pop out of some slots. Okay. And we'll set this off to the side, someplace where it can't be damaged or scratched. And then let's reposition you so you can see from the inside. All right, so now that we got our trim out of the way, now we can peel back this carpet, and we can see our wires going up into this grommet, which goes through the body into the back side of our taillight assembly. And we can see we got 1, 2, 3 bolts that are holding it in. Okay, and so we're going to need to find the appropriate size socket, and we're going to have to take those out. Where we're going to want to make sure we don't drop them. Okay, make sure you keep those. And then now, taillight assembly is going to come out. You guys can't see anything, so we got to reposition you once again. Alright, so now the taillight assembly can come out, and you can see here we've got our brake light and our tail light, and these two are the quarter turn style. And if you look closely right here, it actually says remove with an arrow pointing this way, so I can rotate this. And then pull it out. Oops, there we go. It's caught up just a little bit. We got to be careful not to pull on the wires here. And same for this one. Looks like this one needs to come unclipped first, otherwise the connector would hit that. And so now I can take this, I can turn that one, and we can open this up. Take a look at this. And we can see here. So this is the light bulb socket. And this is another one of those wedge style bulbs here. And we can see that if we look closely, that should be a 3157. And if you look, we have 2 filaments. Okay, so we'll record that on our lab sheet. Brake lamp is a 3157, and there are 2 filaments. And then we put it all back together. Okay, like before, you can see there's notches and tabs that need to be lined up, and we can see that they're different sizes, so they only go in one way. Sure that when you're putting the connectors back on that you get them lined up straight so they don't bend the pins over. And then as this goes back in, we need to make sure that we're not scratching or poking the body as well as pinching any wires. So we'll put that back in, and we'll go back to the inside and put the inside back together. Alright, so I got that slid in. I'm going to use one hand to hold it in, and I'm going to come around and make sure all the fasteners get started by hand first. Snug them up, bring our carpet back. And there was a push clip that went through here. We gotta line up our hole. Get that pushed into there. Get that popped back into place. And we take a few of our push clips here that might still be usable. Probably time for some new ones. Got to push them in, put them into place first, then push them down. Same thing for here. Make sure it gets into place first. and then push the center pin in. That's how we're going to do the taillights. Time to move on to backup and center high mount brake lights. Okay, I got you guys positioned underneath the center high mount brake light, or the one known as the third brake light that's usually in the back window or in the center of the trunk. And these ones are accessible from underneath the trunk, and like other ones, they're going to be a quarter turn. Just turn them a quarter turn, and then they come out here. Okay, and this particular one here, I think if I hold it still enough you can see it. It's a single filament bulb, and the number, this is another wedge style, so we can just pull this out. Okay, whoops, try not to knock you over. That's a wedge style again, and its number is going to be 912. Okay, so then we just push this back in there, and then you can see the hole with the notches. You gotta put this up in there. There we go. Rotate it until it clips into place, and that's how we do center high mount brake lights on this particular vehicle. Alright, so center high mount brake light was bulb number 912, and it was a single filament bulb. So we'll write that down next. Next we'll go after the backup light, and on our vehicle here that is going to be on the back side of the trunk lid. So let me set you up for that. Okay, I got you set up underneath the trunk lid here. We've got a trim panel that needs to come off. This side's already a little bit loose, missing its push fasteners. We've got a push fastener here, and then we've actually got a scrivet over here. I'll show you those in just a minute. We'll take out the scrivet first. So to do that, we need a Phillips number 2 screwdriver, and we got to back the center out gently. When we do these, we have to be careful not to push in too hard, because the threads strip out pretty easy. So we turn the screw out, and then usually we can grab it and take it out the rest of the way. That's a tight fit. Okay. And it works a lot like the other ones where it's got 2 legs, and then when you put the screw in the center, it screws in and it wedges them apart. And then we've got a regular push clip here, so I'm going to just use my little pry bar, pull that out, and then there should be just a few clips that's holding it on. Just got to kind of grab around, find them, and pop them. And these ones here have the metal clips like this, and so they're designed to pop in and out. Move that off to the side. And then the 2 backup light bulbs are these 2 right here. Like a lot of the other ones on this vehicle, it's a quarter turn counterclockwise, and out they come. And this is another wedge style bulb, so we can pull on them. And if we take a look here, block some of the light here, we can see that this is a 3156, and there is 1 filament in this bulb. Okay, let's take and we'll stick that back in there. Again, need to line up the notches, and then quarter turn, put it back into place. And then we gotta put our trim panels back on, so we gotta line up our clips. And then sometimes you gotta give them a bit of a palm to get them to push back into place. Then we come back and push in our push clips. If your push clip breaks on the way out, no worries, let me know. We do have some replacement clips we can do this with, especially with a customer vehicle. These scrivets, you might be inclined to push them back in because they will do that. I find that if you do that too many times though, they kind of strip out and then they don't work at all. They don't like to back out, so I like to just gently screw them in with just the tips of my fingers here, nothing too hard. Put that back in and we can go ahead and record that information. Alright, so back outside the vehicle here, we had a 3156, and that was a single filament bulb, so I've got that written down. Of course, I would have been getting instructor checkpoints and conversations along the way. The last step to do is to go to our electronic service information and print out a fuse box layout or diagram for the sheet, or if we're doing this electronically, we'll borrow a screen capture of the fuse box layout and paste it in.
Okay, and to finish off our light bulb and wiper service lab, we need to look up the fuse block diagram for our vehicle that we're working in. So we'll go to ShopKey Pro and we'll click login. And we're going to enter in our vehicle information. So this was a 1998 Ford Taurus with a 3-liter V6 VIN U. It's an SE sedan with a AX4N transmission. And just like before, we're going to look and see if we have any of those things that we're looking for in the top lookups. And if we take a look right here, we got lucky again at number 5 with fuse box. So we'll click on that. Come over here and click on fuse box again. And we're going to scroll down looking for the diagrams card right here. So we'll click on that. And we'll scroll down. This tells us where we might find it. We're looking for the one that labels what things are, which we found right here. Alright, so this is the type of diagram that we're looking for. That's going to show what each of the fuses and relays in the fuse box or power distribution center are. And so I'll use my snipping tool to borrow a screen capture of this. Copy it to the clipboard, and then I'm going to go back over to the lab sheet, make sure my cursor is down below the step asking me to do so, and Control V to paste that below. Okay, whoops. And then when I'm done, we can close this and submit it to the hand-in box.
Alright, so once you've got all your lights recorded and you've taken your diagram for the fuse box and the wipers are back on, make sure we go around and check to see that all the lights work. You can see that all the front lights are working. I've already verified all the brake lights and the tail lights in the back still work. And then it would be time to turn in your lab sheet. Thanks for watching.